The gunshot cracked through the market at exactly the moment Ijeoma raised the ledger above her head. Nobody screamed. Nobody ran. Because it wasn't a real gun. It was Kelechi's cheap car backfiring from where he'd parked badly near the palm wine stand, and every trader in a bar market turned at once to see Ijeoma standing on an upturned crate, papers in her fist, her husband's mistress frozen mid-sentence in front of her. If you've ever watched someone's whole world crack open in 5 seconds, that was this. Before we go further, subscribe, drop a like, and comment right now if you can already feel this woman's 20 years of silence about to explode. You will not want to miss what happens next. 3 weeks earlier, Ijeoma was the one loading the truck herself at 4 in the morning, her wrapper tucked between her knees, sweat sliding down her spine before the cock had even crowed twice. Obiora was asleep. Obiora was always asleep. He would wake at 9, stretch like a king, and walk into the market as if the yams had arranged themselves. "Chief Obiora," the men would shout, slapping his back, buying him bottles of Guinness he never paid for. "This man has 3 shops, so trucks they run for road because of him." Obiora would laugh, chest out, and say nothing to correct them. Why correct a lie that felt so good to wear? Ijeoma watched all this from behind her stall, arranging tomatoes, saying nothing. She had learned to say nothing a long time ago. "You are tired," her mother, Mama Adaize, told her one evening, rubbing shea butter into her daughter's cracked palms. "I can see it in your shoulders." "I am fine, Mama," Ijeoma said, the way she always said it. Fine people do not carry a whole family on their back and smile while doing it. Ijeoma pulled her hand away gently. "If I complain, what changes? He will only shout that I am trying to shame him. And if you say nothing forever." Ijeoma didn't answer that one. She didn't have an answer. That same night, Obiora came home smelling of perfume that was not hers. He slid into bed and pulled her close anyway, his mouth finding her neck, then her lips, hungry and practiced. "Obiora," "Shh," he whispered against her mouth, kissing her slow, deliberate, the kind of kiss that used to make her forget every debt he owed her. For a moment, God help her, she kissed him back. She let herself remember the boy he used to be before the lies became a second skin. Then her hand brushed his shirt pocket and felt a folded receipt that wasn't from any shop of his. She pulled back. "Whose perfume is this?" "Perfume?" He laughed too quickly. "Ijeoma, are you smelling my shirt now like a madwoman? I asked you a question. And I am telling you, you are imagining things. Long day for both of us. Sleep." He turned his back to her and was snoring within minutes. Ijeoma lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her lips still warm from a kiss that suddenly tasted like a lie. The next morning, Kelechi, her younger brother, came running into her stall, breathless, his eyes wide with the particular excitement of a man who has gossip he cannot hold in his chest a moment longer. "Sister, sister, I saw him." "Saw who doing what, Kelechi? I have customers." "Obiora, beside Presidential Hotel, with a woman, fine woman, holding phone he bought for her, the same phone he told you your business could not afford." Ijeoma's hands went still over the basket of pepper. "What is her name?" "They are calling her Soma Adina, new trader from Owerri, very sharp mouth, very sharp eyes." Kelechi lowered his voice. "Sister, this woman does not know the truth. She thinks Obiora has trucks. She thinks he has 3 shops. She is planning her whole future around a man who cannot even pay for his own drinks." Something in Ijeoma's chest that had been coiled tight for years loosened just slightly. Not into anger, not yet, but into a terrible clarity. "Let her find out slowly," Ijeoma said quietly. "Everybody deserves to learn the truth about Obiora eventually." But clarity, once it arrives, does not like to sit still. That same evening, a debtor named Mr. Nchukuma stormed into her store, waving a torn invoice. "Where is your husband? He owes me for diesel since March. Everybody they call him big man, but who go pay me my money?" Ijeoma reached into her own pocket, the pocket that had been reaching into itself for years, and paid the man just to make him leave. Her fingers trembled, not from the money, but from the sudden unbearable weight of doing this alone, again, always, forever, unless something changed. If this story is already gripping you, this is the moment to hit that subscribe button, because what Ijeoma does next in the market, in front of everyone, is the scene you came here for. Comment, "I'm watching," if you are ready for her to finally speak. That night, she did not sleep beside Obiora. She sat at the small wooden table where she kept her real books, the ones with her handwriting, her calculations, her sacrifices, and for the first time in years, she began to write down every single thing he had taken credit for. Every truck, every shop, every naira. By morning, she had a plan, and market day was tomorrow. Market day arrived with its usual noise. Traders shouting prices, children weaving between baskets, the smell of dried fish and fresh pepper thick in the air. But underneath the noise, Ijeoma moved with a stillness that unsettled anyone who looked closely. She had dressed carefully that morning, not in the wrapper she wore to load trucks, but in a deep wine-colored blouse she had bought with her own money 2 years ago and never had an occasion to wear. Mama Adaeze noticed immediately. "You look like a woman going to war," her mother said, watching her braid her hair back tight. "I am going to end one," Ijeoma replied. Kelechi met her at the edge of the market, his eyes searching her face. "Sister, are you sure? Once you do this, you cannot take it back." "I have been sure for 3 years, Kelechi. I was just tired of admitting it." Obiora was already at his usual spot near the center of the market, holding court as always, one hand resting on a stack of empty crates he liked to lean against because it made him look like a man surveying his kingdom. Soma Adina stood beside him, laughing at something he'd said, her new phone, Ijeoma money, clutched in her manicured hand. Ijeoma walked straight towards them, the ledger tucked under her arm, her heartbeat loud in her own ears, but her face calm as still water. "Obiora," Ijeoma called, and something in her voice made the surrounding stalls quiet. He turned, still smiling that public smile. "Ijeoma, my wife, come, meet Soma Adina." "I know who she is," Ijeoma said. Her eyes moved to the younger woman, and there was no venom in them, only something sharper, maybe pity or recognition of a mistake she had also once made. "You are a trader, they tell me. Sharp woman, sharp eyes." Soma Adina straightened, suddenly uncertain. Yes, is there a problem?" "No problem at all." Ijeoma pulled the ledger under her arm and opened it to the first page, holding it up so that both of them and half the market could see the neat rows of numbers. "This is the diesel truck he told you runs 3 routes to Owerri. Here is the receipt, in my name, paid with my trade money 11 months ago. This is the shop expansion he told the men at the palm wine stand last week. Also mine, also paid with the sweat you've watched me carry to this market every morning while he slept." The crowd that had been half listening now fully stopped. Chukuma, the diesel man, pushed closer, his mouth falling open. "Ijeoma, what is this nonsense? Why are you shaming me in public?" "I am not shaming you," she said, and for the first time, her voice trembled not with fear, but with the sheer release of finally saying words she had swallowed for years. "I loved you enough to let the whole village believe your lies. I fed that lie with my own hands, Obiora. Every morning, every naira. And you took my love and my labor and my silence, and you spent it on a woman who doesn't even know the man she's kissing has never once, not one single time, provided for the family that carries his name." So Madina's face had gone pale. her earlier confidence draining out of her like water through cracked clay. "Obiora, is this true?" He didn't answer. His silence answered for him. Ijoma closed the ledger gently, almost tenderly, the way one might close a chapter they no longer needed to reread. "So, my Dina, I am not angry with you. You believed what everyone believed, but I am tired, so deeply tired of being the invisible hand behind a man's whole performance. So here," she held out the ledger, along with the spare keys to the house Obiora liked to call "my property," though her father's name sat quietly on the title. "Take him, take the lie. I am done carrying both of you." The market erupted, not into laughter, but into the low, stunned murmur of people watching a woman set herself free in real time. Chukwuma shook his head slowly. All this time we were drinking with an empty man." Obiora reached for Ijoma's wrist. "You will regret this. Nobody survives alone in this town, Ijoma. You will come crawling back." She looked down at his hand on her wrist, then up into his eyes, and something in her gaze made him let go on his own. "I have been surviving alone for years, Obiora. The only thing changing today is that everyone can finally see it." She turned and walked away, spine straight, Kelechi falling into step beside her, Mama Adeze waiting at the edge of the market with her arms already open. Behind them, the market noise swelled back up, but different now, thick with whispers, with 100 versions of the same sentence passing from stall to stall. "Did you hear what Ijoma did to Obiora today?" Somadina stood frozen beside the man she believed was her future, staring at the ledger in her hand, at the truth written in another woman's careful handwriting. Slowly, she looked up at Obiora, really looked at him, seeing him for the first time without the shine of his own lies polishing the picture. "3 shops," she said quietly. "You told me 3 shops." "Obiora, listen to me. I can explain." "You have nothing to explain with. That was the whole problem." She dropped the keys into the dirt at his feet and walked away without looking back, leaving Obiora standing alone in the center of the market he no longer ruled, the crates he liked to lean on suddenly looking exactly like what they were, empty things holding up nothing at all. By evening, the whole of Aba Market had heard some version of the story, each retelling a little more dramatic than the last, but the bones of it stayed the same everywhere. Ijoma had carried her husband's entire fortune on her back for years, and Ijoma had finally set the load down in front of everybody. Obiora did not go home that night. He could not. The house held nothing for him anymore. Not comfort, not pride, not even the illusion he'd built his whole identity around. He wandered to the palm wine stand where the same men who used to call him Chief now looked at him with something between pity and quiet satisfaction. The particular satisfaction of people who always suspected a man was hollow and finally got to watch him crack open. "Chief Obiora," one of them called out, but there was mockery folded into it now, and Obiora flinched. "Leave me," he muttered, and for once, nobody argued with him. Somadina, for her part, did not stay in Aba long. Within a week, word came that she had packed her things and returned to Owerri, telling anyone who asked that she had seen enough and wanted nothing more to do with men who built palaces out of other people's labor. She was sharp after all, sharp enough to recognize a sinking ship the moment the water reached her ankles, and sharp enough not to go down with it. Obiora tried twice to return to the house. The first time, he found the gate locked and Kelechi standing at the threshold with his arms crossed, unmoving as a wall. "My sister said you should go and meet the same trucks and shops you told the whole market about. Maybe they will let you sleep inside," Kelechi said flatly. The second time, he came with softer words, standing outside the gate, calling her name the way he used to when they were young and courting, before all the lies had calcified into who he'd become. Ijoma, please, I made mistakes, but you are still my wife. We built this life together." Ijoma came to the doorway, her arms folded, her face neither cruel nor cold, just finished. We did not build anything together, Obiora. I built it. You decorated yourself with it. She paused, and for just a moment, something soft passed behind her eyes, the ghost of the boy she'd once loved enough to marry, the memory of a kiss that used to mean something before it became another performance. I am not doing this to punish you. I am doing this because I finally remembered that I deserve a life that doesn't require me to disappear inside someone else's story. Where will I go? He asked, and his voice cracked in a way the market had never heard. Ijoma said quietly, I don't know, but it is not my job to carry you there. She closed the gate. Weeks folded into months. Ijoma registered her trading business properly for the first time, no longer hidden behind Obiora's name, no longer laundering her hard work through a husband's borrowed reputation. She called it Adeze and Daughters Trading Company, after her mother, and within that first season, 3 new stores stood under her name in the market where she used to labor in someone else's shadow. Her children, who had watched their mother grow smaller and smaller, trying to keep the peace, now watched her stand taller every single day. Kelechi became her right hand, keeping the real books openly now, no more hiding ledgers under wooden tables at midnight. Mama Adeze sat beside her daughter's store some mornings, sipping tea, simply watching, the quiet pride on her face saying everything her words didn't need to. Obiora, meanwhile, drifted. He tried to start over in a neighboring town, telling new people new versions of old lies, but somehow the truth always found its way there before he did. Aba was not so far, and gossip, it turned out, traveled faster than any truck he'd ever pretended to own. He took odd jobs he once considered beneath him, carrying loads for men half his age, sleeping some nights in a single room he could barely afford, the silence around him louder than any market crowd had ever been. One afternoon, nearly a year later, he returned to Aba, thinner, quieter, a shadow of the man who used to hold court over 3 bottles of Guinness. He stood at the edge of the market watching Ijoma direct her workers, her voice steady and sure, her laughter, genuine laughter, not the practiced kind she used to offer him, ringing out as she shared a joke with Kelechi over the account books. He almost walked toward her. He almost opened his mouth to ask for help, the way he always used to, assuming she would give it because she always had. But something in the set of her shoulders, in the life she had built without him, stopped him where he stood. Ijoma glanced up once, met his eyes across the market, and there was no anger left in her gaze, just the quiet, unshakable peace of a woman who no longer needed anything from him. She did not walk toward him. She did not need to. Ijoma, I wish you well, she said simply, loud enough for him to hear, and then she turned back to her ledgers, back to her daughters, back to the life she had built with her own 2 hands from the very beginning, whether or not the village had ever known it. Obiora stood there a moment longer, then turned and walked away, disappearing back into the crowd that no longer called him chief. If Ijoma's journey moved you today, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe so you never miss the next story, and drop a comment below. We want to know, where are you watching from tonight? Let us see how far this story traveled.